Welcome back to another Productivity Like a Pro podcast. I'm so excited because today we will talk about Heptabase again with Alan Chen, the founder of Heptabase. And we had a talk already the moment Heptabase appeared for the first time on screen for many people of you. Although it was around for a few more years already. Now, I think it's about 1 year later, we have to catch up with all the new features and all the things that happened in Heptabase. Alan, I'm excited to have you with us in the
Oh,
show and have a catch-up call here.
nice.
Paperless Movement, your productivity, your way.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, as I already mentioned, so many things happened and a lot to catch up since our last interview that we had on this channel. What should we start with? How have you been? Let's start with some behind the scenes information, right? So you moved to UK
Yes,
from
I'm currently in London. Our team is not distributed in Taipei in London, and there's going to be like more people from different places like after this year. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, having like building with people around the world. And also it's been like, yeah, almost a year, like 3 quarters actually, like since our last interview. So definitely a lot has happened. Like we launched our 1.0, and then after that we have like a huge surge of new customer coming in, and we are trying to catch up with the volume. We added like customer support capacity, and then also continuously like shipping new updates about around like what we originally planned. So like sounds very simple, but also a lot of work behind the
Yeah,
hood.
it's incredible with such a small team that you've been at these back then, how much you kept delivering. And I really can imagine the support is something that every SaaS company starts to struggle once they are scaling. So how is it going there? Are you able to compensate all this? Do you still know what to focus on with all the new requests coming in from all sorts of people with different use cases?
Yeah, I think we are getting better and better at it. Like when you have like, I don't know, like few hundred, few thousand users, like you can kind of use your intuition to like do through everything. But then when you are like after that scale, you need to build a system, right? Like you need to
Yeah.
build a system to take feedback and then to weight different feedback by like real data, like how many people are having this problem, and then like what are the most pressing problem and what are the less pressing problem. And then you have like priority lists around like different ticket on like improvement on new features on like fixing small little bugs that happens like 1 out of 1,000 times. Yes, like I think that is like one of the things that we are like constantly improving right now, to have that system in place so we can better support all of our users.
Yeah, that's great. And something that I always appreciate in companies like, for example, ClickUp, they're using Kenny, is a Kenny, yeah, in order to get in new requests and others can vote on these requests. How do you handle this to let the community? Because I know that you are listening to the community and you are on Discord, so there are probably endless requests coming in. How do you handle all this now?
We have an in-app support system in Heptabase, and
Yeah.
we also have a Discord community. So they serve different purpose. For Discord community, it's more of like a place where users can chat with each other and discuss ideas. And we, like as a builder, is more like a moderator who like look everything and just make sure that there's no spamming. And then sometimes I reply to some discussion that we're interested in. And the intercom, the customer support, in-app support, that is where the majority of user communication is happening, where if a user have a bug report, or they have like a feature request, or they have some feedback on like how they want the product to improve, then they send us a message, and then we will reply to them like in 24 hours. And usually we aim to have it by, like 3 hours, but then it turns out it's impossible if everyone is in the same time zone. So now we are like having 24 hours rotation. Like we have some people in UK and some people in Taipei, so we can actually be much more respond to these questions much more faster. And then in that system, like where customer, they give feedback, like customer, they always come here and say that, hey, I want to this feature, right? And we have this kind of research and translation process where we research into like why they want that feature. And then we kind of aggregate like the similar type of problem together into certain ticket. So like some ticket might be customer frustrating with a specific problem. It's not necessarily like a feature ticket. It can be like a problem ticket where it linked to all the customers who has a specific problem. And then we look at like, okay, like these customers who have this problem, they are requesting these different features. And what are all behind these features? Well, how can we better solve their problem with like in a much simpler way or much cost-effective way? Or like how can we design better on like addressing their issue? And then we kind of move that into the pipeline of design and engineering. Like if you are a Heptabase user and you really want something to happen, like I think the best way is just like send us a message, and then it will have a weight into like our future decision on product development.
That's amazing. I was since day one really impressed with the way how you developed this tool, and with every release that I see coming there, it was always impactful so far. So let's see how long this will happen. But with the system that you build up, that's really scalable. It's amazing. And also that you do in Discord, then you eventually go there and you have a voting then, because there's, do you want this or not? And you get another feeling then if the general user wants this or not. So really amazing. But now we talked enough about support tickets, while also it was necessary to talk about this because the implementation of Intercom, the chat system that you mentioned there, and the ticketing system, that was one of the new releases in these 3 quarters as well, right?
Yes.
So that's a big improvement, and it is amazing to be in Heptabase and being able to always reach out. But now let's talk about more about the essential features that came to Heptabase.
Okay.
So one thing that I really liked that came to Heptabase is the backlinking. If you're on a whiteboard and you have different cards and you connect them together just by an arrow, that they actually get a backlinking. That's something that we saw in Scrintl before, and that was a differentiator there. And in our discussion last time, so the 3 quarters ago, you weren't sure if this will come or not. And then I was surprised that this is now there, and it is implemented so well. How it is then represented, the backlink, that's just amazing. And Heptabase is really still the tool that we really recommend for anybody who is not sure about what PKM system to pick, because it is so easy to understand and yet so powerful with all the different features. It sounds like you're paying me to say that, but it is just experience that we have with Heptabase. It's the sweet spot of list of features that you can have and the usability that you can have. Obviously, we are also using Tana and other tools as well that are more complex, but therefore these are just, put it a different way, Heptabase at some point hits a ceiling in some features, and then we go forward, for example, going to Tana or anything like that. But the point is, and that's what we tell our members and our busy professionals many times, until you hit the ceiling, you probably will never hit the ceiling once you start leveraging Heptabase in the most proper way. And this backlinking feature is just one example there. Maybe other features that you want to point out that you've released through the past 3 quarters.
Yeah, sure. So usually like every quarter we have like several things that we focus on working on, right? Usually it's like 3 or 4 things. And sometimes if it's a larger thing, it's 2 or 3 things. So I think like the first quarter after we chat last time, I think it's around like July to September, like that quarter, it's all about launching our 1.0. So basically having this free trial open to users so they don't need to like pay any money, can just like start using it, and then having like a better onboarding to guide the user to like get handy with like the basic of Heptabase, and like a customer support system. And also I built like an entire new public wiki website with all the articles on like workflows and like advanced tutorials and articles about how you can best leverage Heptabase. So that's obviously one thing that is important when we are launching a 1.0. And then there's also like product feature in the first quarter. One most important thing is whiteboard. Like we are adding more capability into whiteboard to make it more powerful. I don't know if you like use Heptabase a year ago, when you are writing on the card and the card length will grow, right? The height will get higher and higher and it will overlap to other cards. But then now like we have implemented the space out algorithm. So like when the card is growing, it can actually push away the other cards around it. And we also have like section auto grow, like when card is growing in a section, then the section also grow. So you don't need to like manually resize them. And we have these kind of keyboard navigation where you can up, down, left, right to like navigate across card without moving your mouse. And for like mind map, we have like fold node and like change color of the node. And then like for the entire whiteboard, we have focus mode, like where you can like focus on one specific card and hide all the toolbar. Like it's a lot of like small things that, like everything looks small, but when you gradually add up, and then it becomes like a much better experience when you are thinking. I think our like the whiteboard upgrade is a lot of it is about helping you reduce the time that you need to manually adjust the layout, and then helping you reduce the time that you need to do something that is unrelated to just sense making and learning and thinking. And so that's kind of like feature or usability improvement is one big thing in the first quarter. And another
Yeah,
thing, obviously, mobile app, right? Like last time we chat, we don't have a proper mobile app yet. Like I think we only have like a quick capture option. But now, like you can access all of your notes, all of your whiteboard, and then all of your journal, highlight, PDF, all of them. You are able to access it in your mobile app, and you can also edit your note, capture new notes, write in journal, view your whiteboard, like stuff like that. There's a lot of new works coming soon, like in mobile app, for example, like editing your whiteboard directly or doing handwriting and stuff like that. That is what we are going to build next. But I think mobile app is one of the big things that we roll out like at the first quarter, like just giving you the power of like all the search and data access. And then there's history, like data, right? Like we now have like version history of like editing history of a card, editing history of a whiteboard, and we have like a proper trash can where whenever you accidentally delete something, it goes to a trash can. And we have like a better like export format. Like for example, if you are using our tag and property, now all those tag and property value will be exported into the YAML section in the markdown file. So you actually have all your data exported and you can use it in other places. And then like the final thing in 1.0 is, I mean, like there's a lot of stuff, but then
and then we will follow up on all the points that you mentioned because I want to dive into each of it before we move into even to the next quarter. We're just talking about the first release, right?
The last things about first quarter is basically PDF and highlight. You know, like we originally had like a simpler PDF reader, but now you can search inside PDF. You can zoom in and zoom out. You have table of content, and you can sort your highlight. You can change color for your highlight. Like you have all these capabilities that users who heavily use PDF are asking about, and we implement that in that quarter. So basically, that quarter is about launching 1.0, and it's all around like better whiteboard, better mobile, better PDF, and also all these like things that we work with, like data backup, data version history, and export.
And it is amazing. It was amazing, the 1.0 release and all the quality of life changes that came with it already, and how you continued to improve these different parts as well. Something that, and maybe we skip now the 2 quarters ahead with all the releases, because if people want to see the releases, they can go to your channel. I also subscribe to the newsletter because it's insane, the regular updates that you put out there and how detailed the videos are and what you improved. And that's really amazing. Now you also started to do tutorials on your own channel about Heptabase. So all these things are there. Listing all the features, increasements might explode what we can talk today about. But I really want to dive into 2 topics that you mentioned there, especially mobile right now. Let's stick with this topic, as I have a few questions there. So you released the mobile app, which is insane, the quality of the mobile app for the first version. I was really impressed back then already. And then, as you mentioned, it kept improving. Now we can access everything. The one thing that I wonder that this is still not there, and that might be also connected to another question that I have about why don't we have an inbox in Heptabase? Do we not have in the mobile version an easy way to share anything with Heptabase? Because that's what I expect when I have let's say I'm in Chrome browser or wherever on my mobile and I want to share the URL or I want to share image. I have the apps that I can share it to. Heptabase is not appearing. Is there any particular reason for that?
It's a matter of time. Like I would say it's just a matter of time. We are working on mobile app right now. Like more of mobile app upgrade is coming soon. You know, like I mentioned earlier, right? We have a system where we weighted different stuff. And so we started with the things that has the most weight, and then gradually like build other things around that. So
yeah, that's interesting to know that that's not so needed. So that's good to know. But it's then obviously on your roadmap. That's what we can keep in mind here now. But then another thing that I just mentioned here is inbox anything that you plan to do, even if it is not weighted so much, but is it anything that you plan to implement?
Yeah, inbox is also one of the things that is not like weighted that much in our backend. You know, like this is actually like what's useful in having that system is that sometimes you have this intuition of like everyone will want this, but then when you look at the actual data, you can start having like a full picture. But definitely inbox is something that we want to implement at a certain stage and figuring out the right design. Like, you know, like if you have looked into our roadmap right now, we are currently working on some of the collaboration and card sharing feature. And we think those kind of, you know, when you share a card to others and when you capture ideas into Heptabase, like it can all be like inbox could be like a really useful design to kind of combine this stuff. And so, but there's a lot of, when it comes to design, it's like problem solving, right? Like you just have to figure out like the detail of like how do you differentiate the things that you capture and the things that people share with you, and then like what is like the right way to put into our existing information architecture. So I would say that things that hasn't come yet, it's not like they are not coming. It's more of like a prioritization problem. And the prioritization problem usually it's impacted by, first of all, it's impacted by our customer support system, like the way we weight different things.
Yeah.
And the other is impacted by our overall roadmap. Like when certain features are being built, then there's going to be some other feature that will be built around this huge feature so that we can have a more consistent theme of like what we are working on, like in this quarter, basically.
Yeah, makes total sense. And also something I really like that you're aware of the big picture and where you're going to. And that gives me calm that things will evolve as they should, because you are very careful implementing the new features so they fit in the overall system or the structure behind this. So that's really amazing. And something I want to point out, or you might wanted to point out for the other 2 quarters that you kept publishing and releasing, is that now we can really throw anything onto the whiteboard and it will appear. So if I have an image, I can paste it in there. If I have a YouTube video, it will be embedded on the whiteboard, something that wasn't there in the beginning. And that makes it more and more a replacement for Miro, actually, which was usually the whiteboard that allows you to put anything there and then restructure it. And this goes now there. So this leads me to the question about the concept in Heptabase behind the cards. So in order to do this, now we are able to have image cards, and now I have video cards and all this that was introduced. What's the vision behind it? What's the purpose of having different card types instead of creating one card type and just embedding the YouTube video in there?
Yeah. Okay, so that's actually what we're working on the second quarter. Like,
all right, there, let's go.
Multi-card type, like image, audio, video, you highlight, journal, note, like all different type of card and PDF card, right? Like we originally have. And then in Heptabase, there's these like 2 different concepts. One is called card and another is called element. For example, you can create text element, image element, audio element, video element on the whiteboard, right? But those are elements that just live inside the whiteboard. But you can also turn them into a card. And when you turn it into a card, it goes to a card library, and then you can reuse it across different whiteboard. And you can also, add tag and properties to it and to perform like a lot more actions to a card. And Heptabase, like as a system, is built around card. Like the reason that we have all these different card types is because we acknowledge the fact that knowledge could live in a lot of different media type. Like a video can have knowledge, a PDF can have knowledge, an audio can have knowledge. It's all different medium, different type of container of knowledge. And the core, I would say the core value about Heptabase is that you kind of decompose the knowledge or extract the knowledge from these sources and create your own deep understanding. You build your own understanding around that. And so if you want to say that I want to like learn take a course, which is a YouTube video, I should be able to like have that as like a primitive element inside Heptabase that I can work with. Like maybe in the upcoming future, we can build some of like transcription or like video decomposition or whatever. Like also it sounds like different feature, but it's around the purpose of the capability of extracting knowledge from the knowledge container. And that is why like these things are not on our cards, because it's not just something that you embed and attached in a note. It's something that you work directly with. There's something that we want to build capabilities around that. We don't just want to give people the power to attach a PDF in a note. We want people to actually being able to open that PDF with a PDF reader that we specifically designed to extract knowledge from. And that's why like there's different card. There's different card, which means there's different card reader, and then there's different capabilities that we can build around this card reader, and then which means that when all these cards are in your card library, you can search for them just like you search for all the important knowledge you have, instead of like having one video or one PDF just like live inside a node, and it becomes harder to find them basically.
Yeah, makes total sense. And the moment I convert a YouTube video into a video card, and I get then the feature set of extracting the transcripts, and that would be the next topic. Maybe there would be AI giving me a summary of this video. How is the thought about AI? You had a basic chat AI in the beginning of Heptabase, which then disappeared during the course of the time. What's the reason behind that? Will AI come back? I mean, I have a personal opinion on that AI really is only useful in certain places. It's not useful if you have an overall AI that gets access to everything and just gets confused by that. So what's your approach on that, and what's the decision making?
So basically, that feature, that AI chat feature, is like an alpha feature that we built. We have one engineer build it in less than a week and to just like ship it and see how people react. Like I think that was the time where OpenAI start, giving
Yeah.
people access to those API, and we want to like kind of experiment with it and see if it is very useful. But it turns out that, just having like a Q&A inside Heptabase, like I think it's definitely useful in some point, but I feel like the capability of AI, if we really want to integrate it into product, it's going to be more indirect, I would say. It's more of a problem where you have this specific problem, and then inside this specific problem, you can break it down into multiple capability, and then AI in some way, you can incorporate it into one of the capability to make that entire solution much more efficient. And so instead of like building like an AI feature that, people can chat with their stuff, I've been spending more time thinking about incorporating its capability underlying some of the important process when people are, making sense of like the topics that they're learning or they're researching at. And currently, like our approach is we don't want to like rush into the AI hype. We know like a lot of people are building like a lot of AI apps out there. We take a more like a research-driven approach where like we have several like small prototyping projects and like we experiment with like, oh, what if we let AI participate in this specific process where the user currently do a lot in Heptabase, but they have to do it manually. Like, how can we make it happen more automatically? Like, we experiment with this kind of small research project that is under the hood that we didn't really reveal to like people yet. But I think that those are like our approach in like we don't want to really just like because AI is hyping and just roll out many AI features as possible. We just want to make sure whatever we roll out, whether it's about AI or not about AI, it should be useful to the use case that people use Heptabase for. And that is that chat interface that we originally prototyping with last year. It's more like just like an experiment, but we don't think it's like very useful to most of the people according to the data that we see.
Yeah, and I think the problem is really still with these chat interfaces is that AI cannot understand the knowledge base comprehensively. So when you start asking it, you can direct it into a direction. So in fact, it just does a search in your knowledge base, tries to find something and gives you then an answer to this. So that's where I see no matter what tool we use AI, really leveraging the knowledge base in the back end by using AI comprehensively, it never worked out. So usually you have to extract a part of it and then ask specific questions about this. It always works better. And therefore going back to ChatGPT makes a lot more sense in many cases. Thanks very much. And I think it's the right approach. You focus on the things that really matter instead of trying to ride on any wave that might change within a year in a complete different direction. Quarter 2. Anything else we missed out that we want to highlight?
Let me think. Okay, so we were talking about the second quarter, right?
We still are just in the second quarter, yeah?
There's a lot of other stuff in second quarter, right? Like we have upgraded our left sidebar and right sidebar, and by upgrade, it's not like upgrading its look, but upgrading how you can use it. Like for the left sidebar, it's now more of like a tab assistant where you can have folders and bookmarks. Like we think of Heptabase, like everything inside Heptabase, we think of it as like it's like a web, right? It's like your own internet inside your own Heptabase. And so when you are browsing the internet, you use a web browser, you open those tabs and then you create bookmark for tabs and then you add bookmark into folders. And that is one upgrade that we have done like in the second quarter where we upgrade our left sidebar such that when people browse their card, they can actually bookmark their card and then they can put those cards in folders. And they can also have this tab group where, for example, for myself, like I have a tab group that is around company, and I have a tab group that is about my life, and I have a tab group that is about product, and a tab group that is about growth. And inside that tab group, there's like different folders of bookmarks, and then like some of the other tab that I just recently opened but didn't really pin it. So it's kind of actually like it's something that make Heptabase stick like even more, because like now you enter Heptabase, you don't need to like start with search or start with like entering this and that and going to like different layers of whiteboards or cards. Like you can just like go to your sidebar and visit your bookmark, just like when you use internet most of the time, you just open the browser and then click your bookmark. And then sometimes you search like Google, and for us, it's like common or global search. So like that is like a left sidebar.
That's really something I love to see as well for organization. So we cope with this in the beginning, having a whiteboard called My Life. And there we have, according to our ICO methodology, the key elements, the projects, and the topics. And then you easily can navigate from whiteboard to the next one in order to find the things. Now with these different workspaces that you created there, that's so easy to switch life situations, right?
Yeah.
I'm in work mode. Now I have everything that I need for work. Now I'm in my personal hobby, and then everything comes up there. What an amazing update. And again, so easy to use, so well thought through. I really have to applaud you there for the implementations that you do. They are Apple-like. Whenever Apple releases something, then it makes sense in the overall ecosystem. Well, most of the cases, but here you nailed it. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, thanks. And there's also a live sidebar, just like for record. Like we also upgrade our right sidebar.
That's that's the next thing. And I'm really interested to talk more about this as well. What I recognized is also the content list that you added now to the right sidebar. So it's easier to navigate through the chapters. That's amazing as well. But on the whiteboard, just go ahead.
So basically the right sidebar, we think of right sidebar as something that people, as like, if you are in the whiteboard, then the right sidebar will have things that is useful to that whiteboard. If you are in the card, then the right sidebar will have things that is useful to that card. And if you like open a PDF file, then the right sidebar will have things that is useful to a PDF file. You open the PDF file, you can go to a right sidebar and see all the highlight you have with that PDF. And you can, if you open like a note card, then you can go to the right sidebar and see like a table of content and the word count of the card. And if you are opening the journal, in the right sidebar, you can see all the to-dos that is going to like do like in those journal date. And if you are opening like a whiteboard, then in the right sidebar, you can see like the section table of content and stuff like that. And then all the right sidebar also have some common functionality, like, open multiple cards in the right sidebar, so you can better cross-reference between your main card or main whiteboard and the reference that you are checking at. So I think right sidebar is something that I really like in terms of how it kinds of like, it's very context sensitive. Whatever you open, then the right sidebar will have all those like small toolkit that will very likely to be useful for use case. And if you don't want to use, then you just like close the right sidebar, and then you are like having this very focused mode of operating with your card, basically.
Yeah, I love it. And talking about new features, I don't know if it was in second or third quarter, the addition of the task inbox and the task system.
It's more of like a smaller project that we add. I think that insight come from the time, like at the very beginning, I really doesn't have much interested into incorporating any task related thing, since I think that is a little bit unrelated to the purpose of Heptabase, which is around sense making and learning and research and deep understanding of stuff I care about. But then I realized, like after several user interview and after seeing a huge amount of tickets in the backend talking about that they want to aggregate their to-dos, I realized that for people who are research and learning, they're especially research or working on like a project that they need to like read a lot of different stuff. There's no way you can read everything in one day, right? And also like when you're working on like a complex research, there's going to be a lot of steps that you need to execute. Like you execute this step, you get this result, you put it on the whiteboard, you execute the next step, you get that new result, and you put it on the whiteboard, and you gradually make sense of it. So there's actually like, in reality, this kind of step-by-step execution is actually very highly intertwined with the process of learning and research. And for complex research project or like complex learning, if you can't track those steps really well, like if you miss some of the steps, then it actually will hurt your research outcome. So it's like an insight that I didn't really notice at the beginning, but like by doing user interview and by seeing like having these tickets behind the hood, like we were like, okay, like we're not going to build a project management system, but we want people to be able to keep track of all these to do, and that is related to their learning and research. And that's why I think we spent like a week or something, like to quickly, like it's not something that is very hard to implement. You write a query system where you can query the to-dos that is scattered across different journals, across different whiteboard, across different cards, and then group it by card and sort it by like a due date. That we also implemented like a due date property where you can now easily like change the due date and reassign the to-do from one day to another. And then after doing that, I find it like actually very useful to me as well. Like now I use that every day. And then thanks for all the user feedback that now I can also be more, I would say, effective in terms of like things that I'm working on, especially when you have like multiple things that you need to work on simultaneously.
Yeah, that's amazing. So at the Paperless Movement, and that's where the inbox comes in again. At the Paperless Movement, our audience are busy professionals, and we strongly believe there's no information without action. And as you realized it now as well, that even if you just do knowledge work, it's always connected to action. Doing the knowledge work itself is already a type of action that you might want to track somewhere. The way we see this, though, is that, for example, you said there are the due dates. That's something we wouldn't leverage. It's great to have it there. If somebody is just inside Heptabase, it makes sense there to keep track, and you could use this as a kind of planner or planning out these tasks. But what we believe in is really having an inbox for these different entities. So the task, that's a task inbox that you created there. So whenever I'm working somewhere, I just quickly create a task, and I can be safe and sound that I can forget about it and keep working on what I'm working right now, because later on I can go to my task inbox and I will find all the things. It's like the read later apps where you keep adding the stuff. The problem really that people have then is that they keep adding everything to this inbox and they never check the inbox. That's why in iCore we teach our members to learn routines. So you will have a routines to work through these inboxes and know exactly how to move forward. So to us, especially for Paco and me, such a thing like the task inbox is just an intermediate step to move forward at a different state of mind and a work state, where then process this inbox later on. And I can then go through this inbox and move it into my other action system in order to establish it more. That's another step. But that's also connected to the inbox feature, which we can use in the library. But having this chronological order of things that I added, like in an email inbox, we are looking for inboxes all over the place. And task inbox is one example for this, because I can keep working without thinking about, I have to go to another program and I have to save now, create a task about this and so on. So that was a big improvement that came there. It's really smart, I think, that the inbox only appears if there is any checkbox available, and it disappears if there is no checkboxes. So it's not cluttering up your left sidebar. Also really well implemented. Congratulations on that.
Thanks. Yeah. So that marks the end of the second quarter as well.
Now the third quarter, and now we are entering the future, going slowly to the future.
Yeah. So the third quarter is like, it's actually like this year, like the past 3 months, right? Like after one of the major focus in the first quarter this year is performance. And by performance is performance about everything. Like, for example, you have a large whiteboard, and how can we make it more performant? Because, like we are introducing new features, and the more features that you introduce, the less performant it can become if you are not like paying like a very close attention to it. And in the first quarter, one of the things we are working on is improving the whiteboard performance, like the zooming performance, like moving performance, like dragging performance, like all types of little performance. We're profiling it, and just to make sure that its FPS is falls into the right range where people can feel that it is very smooth. And I think that is the one that is most beneficial for people who have large whiteboards with hundreds of cards. Like if you are having one of those whiteboards, you'll notice that the performance should have significantly like increased. And then the other thing is the performance of like data syncing, right? Data syncing across different devices. Like when you have several thousand cards in Heptabase, and then now like you write something in your desktop and then you open your mobile, you'll realize that in the past, like it takes a few seconds to sync data across it, because we need to like do some comparison across all those thousand data and see what changes. And then like we realize that solution, I mean, in the early stage, it works. But once now people are finding Heptabase useful, and they are having a lot of cards, like more than we imagined in the beginning. And then so we kind of like rebuild our backend completely, redesign our sync mechanism, like the way we sync data across different devices. And we actually just rolled out, I think last month, with our new sync mechanism. And now it's like, you just open your mobile app and then less than 1 second, maybe like 0.5 second, you got all your data in, and then like you sync immediately and you can directly capture your thought in journal. And I think that is like a small improvement in terms of reducing several seconds to several milliseconds. It's such like a huge experience improvement in terms of like how relief you can like take your notes without waiting for it and thinking about like whether the data like will be overlapped. So that's like also one thing that we are working on, like in the first
Well,
quarter.
and it is a really important, I just want to double down on this because that's where people end up in a mess when they keep adding features, and then you have a lot of spaghetti code in the backend maybe even, and then things become messy and then you have to fix the performance. So looking ahead of this and being aware of this and fixing it early on in regards of scalability and to make it work with between mobile and desktop better. So again, I'm so happy to hear all these.
Yeah, it's great. Like, like we spent 3 months, 4 months rebuilding that backend, and it's great that now it finally pay off. Like
Awesome.
with the speed that we open. So that's around like performance and stability. And then another things that we work on, which we addressed a little bit earlier, is editor. Like editor, now we have template. You can easily / insert a template that you save and then write inside those templates, which is works particularly well with people who use journal a lot. Like they can have templates that you can record in everyday's journal without retyping the same stuff over and over again. And then we have, PDF export, like now you can export your card as a PDF. That's also one of the things that a lot of people ask for because they want to share their content with other people, and then they don't want to send a markdown file. They want to send something that actually everyone can immediately open and read. And then there's like the backlink that you mentioned earlier. Like now you can see the backlink from arrows, backlink from sections, backlink from whiteboard, text property, text element, mind map, text note. Like literally whenever there's a link, now there's a backlink in the backlink section. So people can actually see true, like full picture of how their knowledge is being connected in different places and different contexts. And that is like the editor part. And one last thing is more like a small things that we recently introduced is an upgrade of the tag system. Now we have like a sort and then the better filter, the relation property, where, cards from different tag, you can create relations across them. And that is mostly for people who is like industry researcher who work with a lot of different, if you are an analyst, you have to analyze different stuff and then connect this stuff as like a database relation. So that is more like what we serve to them. And then the last thing is not feature related, but as we mentioned earlier, like I spent quite some time recording like free Heptabase fundamentals videos that we now have a lot of users. The last time we spoke, people who use Heptabase, they have used other note-taking tool before, right? They might have used Evernote, Roam Research, Notion, Obsidian, blah, blah. Like they use different tools that they come to Heptabase with some of the knowledge that they already have. But now, like we are start having a lot of new users in which Heptabase is their first note-taking tool. Like my mom, my mom was using Heptabase, and then before that she was like 60-ish years old. Like before that she write her notes in paper and sometimes in Word. Never used like a modern app before. So you really need to like build a better tutorials to like help people like this to get familiar with the concept of how these modern tools of thought can help you learn and help you research much effectively, like with all the capabilities that we provide. And that's also why like after like we have all these features now, like the product become more polished and complete, I think like it becomes a great time for me to start recording these workflow videos of how you can actually use Heptabase in real life, in real world, with some real world examples, instead of just saying that, hey, like I know like I sometimes saw some videos in the past when I was learning other tool. They show me that you can connect your node and you can visualize your node, but they didn't really show me how it can be useful or why it can be useful. And that's why like when I'm like building these videos, I actually just like screencast my own Heptabase, and it's like the whiteboard, the cards that is not sensitive. I actually just like show it to everyone. Like this is how I use it. Like you don't need to follow it, but it's a great reference that to see like a tool being used in real world example.
Well, and obviously it's always good if the founder himself is using as heavily the same tool than the power users, right? So
Yeah.
therefore, it couldn't be better. I see bright future for Heptabase. Paco as well. He's excited. We are using it on a daily basis. So many times. Also, we have the inner circle coaching. We see complex setups. We see a lot of note-taking apps, and especially because we are using more than just Heptabase, we are using several PKM systems, but for different purposes. We always say to overwhelm people, try to reduce your tool stack to the minimum. If you're already using Heptabase, try to only use Heptabase. Force the things to do everything in Heptabase so you really see and feel the friction that you realize then what you need another tool for. And usually they end up just using Heptabase because it's more than enough for their daily business and use cases. So it's really amazing. Thank you very much, Alan. I cannot wait to catch up maybe in the next 2 or 3 quarters or even a year, because I'm sure we will have a lot to cover then as well. And on the Paperless Movement channel, we will talk a lot more about Heptabase in the future. Again, not sponsored. We just love the tool. Compared to what is out there, it's really the most comprehensive solution. And as you said, based on the real use cases, I will talk a lot more about how I use it for so many things, learning, developing C# and things like that. I have a use case there. Learning to cook and other things as well. Everything is in Heptabase when it comes to this. For us at the Paperless Movement, Heptabase is the deep thinking tool. Tana is our shallow thinking tool. Whoever wants to find out more about the differences and you don't know about ICO yet, check out the description below. Also for Heptabase, go to the description below. And Alan, thank you very much. It was awesome to catch up, and I wish you all the success and to keep going as you did in the past 3 quarters.
Thank you. Yeah. I hope like next time we meet, we'll have a lot of more things that we can ship in front of.
We surely will. All right.
We
Have a
will.
good time.
You too. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.